Oh, we're recording. All right. I always do that. Hello. Welcome, everybody, to the Saturday Morning Mastermind. I'm your host, Samantha Studebaker-Carl, broadcasting to you from beautiful Indianapolis, Indiana. And I'm here with my good friend, Catherine Clement. And today we are going to talk about the difference between just being and trying, and why one sometimes works better than the other. And then the reason we're talking about that is because we're discussing verse 47 of the Tao Te Ching interpreted by Wayne Dyer. And this particular chapter in Wayne's book, and the book is called Change Your Thoughts, Change Your Life, Living the Wisdom of the Tao. He says living by being, and being versus trying. So anyway, and there's Chris. He jumped on here as well. So before we get the conversation going, I want to have everybody go ahead and introduce themselves, and then read the verse and go from there.
Awesome. Glad you could make it, Chris. Hi, this is Catherine. I'm here in Boulder, Colorado, and looking forward to this verse.
Can't hear you, Chris. You're muted.
Oops, thanks. I touched it, but it didn't unmute. Now it did. Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm glad to be here, and we got a couple friends that may come on. I invited them. They may just watch. Glad to be here from Chicago. Good to see you again, Samantha, in a couple weeks. So I'm excited about this morning's call. Thanks.
Awesome. Good to see you guys too. We had our week off for Thanksgiving. I hope everybody had an awesome and amazing Thanksgiving holiday weekend, and you had some time to spend with your family and eat some good food and all of that kind of fun stuff. So, okay, so verse 47. Who wants to read it? Anyone? You got it in front of you, Chris? You want to read it? I can't hear you.
Hi, now you can hear me, right?
Yep.
Okay. Who's all here this morning?
It's just the three of us right now.
Just the three of us. Three's company. Sounds good. Okay. Sure. I'll start with the 47th verse here.
All right.
Without going out the door, know the world. Without looking out the window, you may see the ways of heaven. The farther one goes, the less one knows. Therefore the sage does not venture forth, and yet knows, does not look, and yet names, does not strive, and yet attains completion.
Sorry, I was kind of reflecting on what you were just reading there, and it's an interesting verse. In the beginning of this chapter, Wayne tells us, he says, I encourage you to change your belief that effort and striving are necessary tools for success. In verse 47, Lao Tzu suggests that these are the ways of being that keep you from experiencing the harmony and attaining the completion that's offered by the Tao. Living by being instead of trying is a different viewpoint. As Lao Tzu states, you can see and accomplish more by not looking out the window. What does that mean, not looking out the window? What do you guys think? What is he trying to say there?
I think he's just trying to say, stay focused on your bliss and don't pay attention to anything else because it'll mess it up.
Yeah, that's good, Catherine.
You're giggling over there, Catherine. Go ahead, Chris. Sorry, I was just.
Yeah. If you're happy, go ahead and ignore everything. Yeah, no. There's a similar version of the verse where it says something like, it says here, without going out the door, know the world. I've heard the verse said like this: without going out the door, the sage may know the whole world. So that's kind of similar, but it's a similar thing. Like, I don't know, you don't necessarily have to go out to learn things. You can learn them right at home. That doesn't mean, I don't know, you still have to learn things from life, but you can know things without going anywhere. So I think it's kind of a contemplative, a way of saying be contemplative without looking at other things. You can know yourself.
I think it's interesting too. I mean, when we read this verse today and these times, I mean, of course, we can know everything and never leave our house or look out our window because of the internet, right? But this was written a long, long time ago. So.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking too, Catherine. I'm like, so he obviously had to be talking about just looking within yourself versus without, everything outside of yourself. And, because obviously the internet was not available then. And if you wanted to have anything to do with anyone back then, you had to literally go out your door and go down the road. And who knows how far you might have to go to find a neighbor. I don't even know. But yeah, hey, welcome, Jason. How are you this morning?
Hey, good. Great to be here. Great to see you all.
Awesome. So we're talking about verse 47 this morning.
Yeah, well, I just kind of caught the tail end of what you guys were saying there, but I'm thinking the same thing. It's we have I don't know about everyone else, but it sort of seems like have this urge to go out and be amongst the world, and like almost like you feel like you have to in order to know anything. I'm sort of compelled to go out, and I'll almost think that if without going out and being amongst knowledgeable people and into and taking part in events, and that there's that I won't gain knowledge. You almost feel like you're being left out if you don't. And maybe that's like what our culture is. What we're getting from this culture, but it just seems to be that way. But I like what you said, Catherine, and what you guys were alluding to about the internet and how you actually can kind of stay at home and remain to yourself, but still learn nowadays. But back then, like you were alluding to, also that he was probably sitting around his village or in his own home, and thinking internally that we have a lot to learn within ourselves, and really it's probably pointing out that most of what we really need to know is within ourselves, is what I'm getting out of it. Hey, Chris, how you doing this morning?
I'm doing good. Hi, Jason. My phone just fell down.
Yeah.
See you, buddy.
Everyone having a
Glad
great
you
holiday.
could join us too.
So
I think it would be really interesting I need to show you guys Lao Tzu. Or this is who I have in my home that represents Lao Tzu to me. This guy. If I can get all of my extra stuff. He's like this wise old dude, right? That wrote this. Okay, but what if he had internet and he could see all the shit going on everywhere? Do you think he still could have written this? Would it have been as serene if he had actually? I mean, here he is isolated in this little village or whatever, in his little cave. And if he was exposed to like all the stuff that we're exposed to on a daily basis, I just wonder how differently it might have been written.
Yeah, would he had a Samsung virtual reality goggles?
Exactly. I can just see him sitting there behind the computer going, ah!
Actually, I want those so I can visit all those Taoist holy mountains up there in China. Because, you know, those were beautiful places. And a lot of those sages lived way up in the mountains. They were really quite serene.
Yeah, I've also often thought that it would be nice to just go away and live in a secluded place like that, where you felt like you could, you know, find everything you need, but just kind of live in a very secluded spot and enjoy nature and kind of be one with nature, you know. But I think I could only do that for so long.
I don't know. I think I could do that indefinitely, to be honest with you. I could turn off this computer and never turn it back on again and not only be disappointed that I didn't see you guys, you know. I mean, the rest of it can all go to wherever. But Karen, did you jump on with us? Is that you? Yeah, there we are. Can't hear you, though.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, now we can hear you.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. My talking through my temple just hasn't ever panned out. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Let's see. All I know about this whole thing is that the Swedish guy that I like talked about Immanuel Kant. Catherine, do you have a statue of Immanuel Kant as well? And I have no idea what he looks like, and I haven't studied him, and but apparently he was a man who, wherever it was that he was born. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Wherever he was born. Let's see. I'm trying to. You'd think I've never operated a computer before. This is so frustrating to me. Okay. He was born in Königsberg. Where is that? Is that Königsberg? Sounds to me like it should be Denmark, but I don't think it is. But anyway, he stayed there his whole life, and people at that time were amazed that he had these profound thoughts about God, life, peace, and everything, and had never traveled more than 10 miles from his hometown. And so his comments were that you don't need to explore every little corner of the world in order to understand how it works. Well, I don't think he was making that statement about me. So
I think I found a picture of him. Is that him?
Oh, hold on. Let's see. Make it to the right
Can you
place.
see my screen?
Oh, very good. He looks like he composes music.
That was dressed back then, right?
And I just thought it was a composer wear. So anyway, it's apparently it's all about the mind, that we cart our mind with us everywhere, or we miss whatever it is that we're involved in anyway. And so I really haven't given that a lot of thought, but I think that's kind of interesting. It really reminds us of the individual experience of the world. So that's me for the moment.
I was just sitting here thinking and going, what if? I mean, what if we had, like my grandbabies that were just born? What if they were completely isolated from all of this mumbo jumbo going on in the world and all of the internet and all of the, if we just kind of like kept them in a not like a bubble, but like out in nature. We moved out to a cabin in the middle of nature and never got on the internet. Never watched TV, listened to the radio, and just kind of lived life as nature. How, what would the difference be? I mean, would that person automatically just have a closer connection with the universe, with the Tao, with nature and all of that, than somebody who's caught up in all of this other everything? Or would it just be a different level of things that that person ended up getting all caught up in? You know, I mean, I don't know. I don't know, just a thought that popped into my head. I'm curious as to what we, I guess
Well,
we go ahead.
Well, I don't have a picture of a mic anymore, so I can't tell if I'm on or off, so you'll have to shout me down. But I thought it was so funny, that picture of your grandson commenting on Thanksgiving, because literally as I wrote that thing, I was thinking, you know, it did seem like he was pondering. He was kind of saying, now, what's that called? Turkey and dressing. And, you know, as long as we continue to focus on one another and expect one another to come up with certain things, you know, we have such an influence, and most of us are swayed by that quite a bit, but there's always the oddball, you know, the odd person that doesn't, you know, none of that affects, and they just go ahead and they do their life in a way, kind of a random way it seems. The other thing that came to mind when you were saying that is that I read yesterday, I was watching a video, and this gal was saying that she had been taught by her mentor that we cycle through life basically awake and unawake. No, she called it forgetting and aware. And that we need that. We need that cycle. We need that time when we're not, you know, all points, bulletin ahead kind of thing. And then but we have to come back to ourselves and we have to gather up all that stuff again, and you know, so I don't, I hardly, are you up? Are you able? Anyway, I'll try and turn off here.
Do you want to jump out, Jason?
Wow. Well, that's interesting, Karen, what you're saying. You know, you know, how, you know, it kind of brings to mind how our time and our perspective and our memory, how that has such a big influence on our perception of you know, of the reality of you know, spatial orientation of things, of, you know, and our emotions even come into play a little bit about that. You know, it's, oh, well, this must be a difficult thing because otherwise I wouldn't be getting so anxious about it, or, you know, or whatever it might be. But we, you know, it's funny when we're not in the actual moment of it and we're thinking back upon things, or thinking about having to, you know, do them, undertake them again. You know, how our perceptions can really cause us to have a skewed view of what that, you know, what it actually takes, what, you know, what actually might be necessary at times. I did want to, you know, not having, you know, I think it's great to not have, you know, all this interference, this outside distraction from technology and the internet and the media. You know, I think to a certain degree, we're not really made for that. I think we're more, I think as human beings, you know, our communication and our camaraderie, and I think all that is, I know that some people can deal with like you know, huge groups of people, huge groups of friends, and and lots of tasks and lots of events in their life and things like that. And I think maybe they've built up into that. But I think for the most part, that's something that you really have to exercise and grow into. I don't think we're all cut out for that. I don't think we're meant to be taking on the knowledge of the entire world being, just poured into our head all at once every morning when we look at the news and the media online. So for myself, I tend to, I do kind of glance over things because I don't want to fall too out of touch with stuff. But then I definitely tend to gravitate back towards the teachings and the information and relationships that I find beneficial to me, that recharge me. I think in the past I might not have had that ability, or opportunity. I think I was very, our choice of friends, our choice of people to hang out with, really, in a certain area is pretty can be confined to just a certain group of people, and that can sometimes hinder us. But with the internet, we're able to kind of search out the relationships that we need in life, and I think that's a great thing. But I also do think it's wonderful to just disconnect for a little while, and as long as we don't get anxious and upset about it, about, oh, well, what am I missing? Kind of have to find that balance there too, but I just I wanted to bring that up. What do you guys think?
You brought something up, Jason, that there was this little tiny thing in there where at first you're talking about disconnecting and, being separated from it. But then there's this little thing that is niggling at you going, but I have to stay connected because, I don't want to fall out of touch, or I want to make sure I know what's going on in the world, or, what that kind of whatever that is that's niggling at you, telling you have to. I'm curious as to what that is. I don't have that. I don't know. I mean, it's interesting to me because I feel like I don't follow anything online. People say, "Oh, did you hear about that blah blah blah?" And I'll be like, "What? I have no idea what you're talking about." And I don't feel bad about that. But what's funny is I had my Chris's aunt. She would make comments about political this or political that, and I would have no idea what she was talking about. I wouldn't say anything, but she would say things kind of like, she would talk weird about people that didn't know what those things were. I can't believe that so-and-so doesn't know who the vice president is. And I was sitting there going, I don't even know who the vice president is. I mean, silly stuff like that. And but it didn't bother me. I care less, because I'm like all in my own little world, and now a lot of people probably say, well, you got your head in the sand and you're not doing anything about it. You're not paying attention. You need to know what's going on in the world. But yet at the same time, I listen to what Lao Tzu says, and I read some of these things, we meditate, and I'm like, why do I need to know what's going on in the world, really? I mean, if I'm not physically going to take action on any of it, why is it important that I go and depress myself on these things? I don't know. That's just my thought process on it. And of course, everybody has their own ideas of what is important, obviously. And but why? Why is it niggle away at you to that little thing that's saying, oh no, you have to be informed, you have to this, you have to that? I'm just curious about that.
Yeah, that's a good question. It's I think it comes back to something you were saying there just a second ago. It's like, well, whether or not you feel like you would want to take action on it. If you have everything in your life that you even want to deal with or handle or take action with in one place, then you're not really going to be, looking for or keeping up with information about other things. So, I admit there's a lot of stuff that I just won't ever be able to know or understand. But that's why I was saying, just kind of glancing over things and kind of keeping a basic understanding of what's going on, rather than coming back and going, well, hey, how did we get here and what's going on with, but that's an interesting question. It brings back what I was thinking about, and what he's talking about here with the heart being such a vital part of us, that it being able to work on its own independently without our thoughts, without us thinking about it. And I think as our systems are set up that way, a lot of the way we are is set up so that we, it happens almost automatically for us, gives us signs and indications on what we need to do to take care of our bodies. But for the most part, it's on other things. And, but there is that, there's that, I guess, that need for feeling connected. Maybe that's kind of the answer to your question there, Samantha, is that feeling that you're not just out of, like the world could just disappear and you wouldn't even know it, type of thing, but also if there are, I guess part of it is because I'm looking for opportunities. I'm interested in new ideas and new technologies, and I'm interested in, where things are going. So that's kind of why I'm always interested in being kind of on the cutting edge of things. And that goes even without thinking that I'm going to take action on everything that I know or everything that I understand. It's just more about being in the know. But it is kind of difficult sometimes to keep from being pulled. If you're kind of open to listening to everybody's thoughts and ideas and everything going on, then you also have to be able to guard yourself against, the negativity or the misinformation, or, because I've come across many people in my life that want to, that they have in their skill set to kind of, sway you to do one thing or the other. And it's not always to my best interest. So it's kind of I don't want to say double-edged sword, but it can be a catch-22 type situation where you're looking for more, but then you get caught up in too much. So yeah.
Yeah, no, that makes good sense, Jason.
Oh, well, thanks, because I can totally confuse myself there.
No, I'll give the example of a thing sometimes we have in the online world, or the network marketing industry, is about going to events or being part of certain companies that they want you to go to different events. Well, sometimes you got $20 and you can't make it to that event. So it's not going to serve you. It's not going to serve you at that time well. You can't. First of all, your life is made up of different experiences, and the great moments in your life are events. So that's what an event is. When I was a child, I was very fortunate, and my parents took me to quite a few places around the world. I had quite a few wonderful travel experiences. And I did learn from that. You can learn a lot from traveling. You can learn a lot from different cultures, different places, and different things. So I don't think it's necessarily that you can't move, that you can't go and have experiences. We certainly learn from other people. And then also, as far as being public or making more circles of friends, that's kind of like speaking. The more experience one has, or the more one does it, the more one becomes comfortable with it. You know, you start to speak publicly, or you start to be around, you know, certain groups of people, and you are able to be a part of that, or be public, or, you know, express yourself publicly. As to what Samantha was saying about not knowing what's going on, I love that, because that was me for about 15 years. Now I little bit. I'm with my mother, and she watches quite a bit of television. A little bit, I'll dip my toe for about 5 or 10 minutes into the news. I don't read the newspaper, but I used to be completely out of it and not pretty much know what's going on. And you know what I noticed about that part of my life is that's when I was most in touch with myself, with my own life. So that's a peaceful way to be. That's actually good, you know. And you think you're missing something, but then turn on the TV for 5 minutes and you'll be like, oh, I ain't missing nothing. You know, but then it's kind of like there's a what do you call it? I want to say Tao, but there's kind of like a pulse that beats in everything, and it's like you sort of want to know what's going on, what's a part of things, you know. So I'll watch these award shows or music shows to see who won this or that, because it's nice to see, oh, who's affecting the collective, what's going on in the collective. And that's kind of, you know, interesting. But going back to this verse, you know, basically, I think it's like you learn within. You know, it's not necessarily going outside. But I do think you could learn from people of the world. You can certainly learn from traveling and going places. But I think learning comes from within.
You know, when you were talking, Jason, it reminded me of how, even though I'm not interested in the, you know, like the political world and whatnot, is I have a lot of interest in, I mean, I have like tons and tons of books. I finally got a bookshelf and was able to put my books back up because they've been in bags ever since we moved, you know. And I'm like looking through all my books and realizing, you know, how much interest I have in these particular areas. And I think that, you know, when you were saying that you had this interest in knowing, is I think it's the same thing. You know, I mean, I may not have that interest in all that public information, but I have an interest in this other part. It's like a compelling thing for me to learn more about it. So maybe it's the same kind of thing. I mean, that makes perfect sense. And Chris, thanks for you mentioned the heartbeat of the world, or you know, and then what's going on, who's affecting the collective. I thought that was an interesting way of looking at it too. I like that. But in this chapter, he was talking about comparing. Let's see, what was he saying? Comparing like your entire self to the mechanism of the heart. The heart kind of works on its own. It does its, you know, you don't have to tell it what to do. And when you try and force it to do something, it doesn't necessarily listen. It still kind of does its own thing. And and I think that what he's also trying to say is to see yourself as that mechanism, that you already know what to do. You don't need to tell yourself what to do, you know, as you just kind of know. And you know, I kind of look at the world that way too, as the world knows what it's going to do. It's going to do whatever it's going to do, and I'm going to be a part of it. And I can, you know, look at one aspect or another, but I'm not going to sit here and try and control everything. I was watching a Big Bang Theory show the other night, and I thought I don't know, it kind of plays in a little bit. Sheldon had decided that he wasn't going to make any more decisions, and he was just going to roll the dice every time he had to make a decision. Should I get up and go to the bathroom? Should I wear a red shirt or a green shirt or whatever? And so he was just rolling the dice and letting the dice make the decisions for him so that he could focus, on whatever else that he wanted to focus on and not worry about those little decisions. And and when I read this verse, I was like, oh, it's kind of the thing. It's kind of like that thing. It's just let the world, or just let the world kind of guide you and go with the flow, if you were. I'm gonna keep saying that, go with the flow. Donna, are you on here? Is that you? I see a phone number, the 919 phone number. That's all it shows. Did you jump in with us? You're our go with the flow lady. You always say that. Can you unmute by *6?
Yes. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. Yay!
Yes. Hey. Good morning. Miss you guys. I tell you what, it's been interesting. I've been sitting here listening to, and I apologize. I got on here a little bit late, but I just woke up. But I've heard what you were saying there. Each one of you there was speaking, and I've been reading the chapters, the verses as we move along, although I haven't been on here with you. It's just this thing called life, but you all touched in on some good stuff there, and it's just like, I'm going to add this, and thanks for allowing me to come out. Probably won't be able to pop back in, but it's just like when he was in this verse here, living by being. We talk about the heart of everything, and I'm so much like this too in a lot of ways. That, like, I think it was Jason or Chris, I can't remember which one said that. People used to tell me all the time, you don't give a rat's ass if the roof fall in. You don't care which way. And also my daddy would tell me that you don't care which way the wind blows. But I did care. It's just that, I realized early on that, I don't know, just something unique that I didn't have control over certain things. So I learned to just kind of go with the flow, although I didn't really understand it. I really did not understand it at the time. It took me some life experiences. And so I realized that we make a lot of our most important decisions right in the moment. Right in the moment. Just as the heart beats, we have no control over our heartbeat. But actually we have control over right now, the moment. That's where most to me now, that's just my perspective on it, is that decisions are made right in the moment. So thanks for allowing me to come out. All right, I'm done.
Thanks, Donna. I like that. Decisions are made right in the moment. Some of my most difficult struggles are when I think I have to deliberate over all this information before I make a decision. And what I've noticed is that when I just go with whatever seems the best or the easiest or whatever just comes more naturally, then there's less of that crap going on in my head going, oh, well, maybe you should do this, or maybe you should do that, or, it should be this way or that way or whatever. And it's just like, quit struggling over the decision and know that whatever decision you make is the right one, and then just make that decision you want to make versus arguing with yourself over it. That's yeah. Like, things go so much more smoothly for me anyway when I just stop arguing with myself about which is the right way to go and just go with it. I don't know. That's my thought. What do you think, Catherine? You've been quiet for a while.
I'd like to jump out real quick and say that's really, it's great when we can just go with the flow, and sometimes we need to. It just isn't so realistic, in this day and age. We sort of have to take, the bull by the horns and make things the way we want them to be. When we're growing up, when we're little kids, isn't it? It's every little kid's dream to grow up and be in control and start making the choices for ourselves, right? We grow up thinking, when I can drive, I'm going to drive myself to a toy store and I'm going to stay there all day and I'm going to buy toys and I'm going to play, or I'm going to go to the candy store and and buy some candy and, but as a kid, we grow up and we have to go with the flow as kids. So for 18 years of our life, we pretty much have to go with the flow, and then we finally get to start making decisions for ourselves. And, so I think it's, we have to be able to go with the flow, but then, turn it on and shut it off as it needs to be. Recently I was in a darn car accident, and I'm having to be driven around by friends and to certain places, my therapy appointments and such, and it's tough being the passenger after you're used to being the driver for so long. Talking about having to go with the flow, and it's but I think that that's sometimes the difficult part is turning it back on, knowing when to just go with the flow and go with the way things are going, or when to put your foot down and say, nope, this is what needs to be done this way, or I can only follow this to this point. Now I gotta part ways. If we don't stay informed, then we're not going to know when those things occur. Might hop back into a group we haven't been in months and be like all gung-ho about it and telling people it's the best thing ever, and then when you get in there you realize that they've gone in a totally different direction that you don't agree with anymore. I mean things move so quickly nowadays, we almost have to stay connected. But there's that pull, we have to be aware, but also, I think it is good to be able to disconnect. And that's why I want to get better at meditating and be more in a routine with that. Not major like meditation for, many hours a day, but I think there is that balance, and without disconnecting from everything, we can't have that balance. So, if I've heard it called, decompression. When I used to come home from work, I used to work the night shift, and in the evenings, I'd miss all the television shows that all my friends would talk about, and so I had nothing to. Did you see that? No, I didn't see that. And I would miss out on so much, and I would end up having to hang out with different people because my schedule. And, and then because of that, I just had to go with that flow, but it didn't take me where I really wanted to go. And by just going with the flow, I missed out on a lot of things, I feel like, because I figured, well, it'll come around. Things will come around to where, this will present itself, whatever it might be. But if you don't take the action and put the energy into it and focus your mind on it, and subsequently, bring things in your life in alignment with that which you want, you're really not going to, you can't just stumble into things, is I guess what I'm kind of getting at. And going with the flow is sort of gives me that, that feeling like, that's what we would be doing. So I don't think that's necessarily, you can't go through with the flow your entire life, so to speak. But, it is nice to disconnect from time to time.
I think you have to disconnect, or at least I do. I was in that la la land world where I was completely disconnected, and I would gladly go back to it in an instant. But I've been told to do other things for the next 2 to 3 years by the big man. So, or big woman, or big whatever you want to call him. It was very blissful to be disconnected and not have to face the reality of things around the world. Now I've been thrown into where I'm building a large team in Africa and countries where, people are starving to death, and it's been put right in my face, and it's been shown to me that I have the ability to help change that. And so that is now a responsibility. It's not like I can just drive up into the mountains and disappear right now, because I've got a lot of people that are, relying on me. And so I wonder if back then he realized, I don't know if you guys, Sandy's not here, but I'm sure the rest of you may have heard of, with acupuncture, the whole body can be represented on the ear. Like we're fractals, and life is fractals. And I wonder if that's kind of what he was referring to, because the whole body, you can treat the whole body just on the ear or just on the hand or just on the foot, and it's because we're all these little microcosms but we're complete in each microcosm. So it's really, I don't know if that's what he was referring to, or I think he was a pretty cool old dude. But like I said, it's really easy to be blissed out when you're disconnected from everything. But when you cannot disconnect, to still be able to find that peace. I mean, I thank God every day that I do have the ability, and I've learned it through dealing with the pain that I've been in for so many years and things. I've learned to control where my mind goes. And so when I start getting overwhelmed with the stresses now because it's, I went from like completely stress-free to like super stress, and I can have meltdowns if I let myself, but it just depends on like, okay, where's my mind focused? If I find myself feeling overwhelmed or overstressed, or, gosh, I can't do this, or what the hell am I doing, or whatever my mind is up there telling me, then I have to just move my attention to all the good things that are happening because of that stress. You know what I mean? Like all those things wouldn't be happening if that wasn't there. So it is a part of it, and you do have to find that go with the flow. Sometimes you just have to completely surrender and just, I mean, literally just shut everything off and just completely surrender and say, this is not in my hands. And there is, like you were saying, how big of a difference do these choices that we make really make? I mean, we don't really know who wouldn't eat if I wasn't up at 3 or 4 in the morning. You know what I mean? Like all these other things start coming in, and it can get really, really complicated. And so if you don't have the ability to just shut it off or shift your focus, even if you can't shut it all off, you have to learn to be able to shift your focus to something else. And what I find, and I've mentioned it before, is that I believe we are divinely guided, whatever you want to call that thing that guides us. You can, I don't care, but I believe we are either divinely guided, or this is all just a replay or something, because things happen in such miraculous ways. Like I don't know how else certain meetings of people could happen, even meeting all of you here, and the difference that you've all made in my life, these divine appointments, what I call them, where we meet somebody and it turns out to be like something so completely miraculous. You know what I mean? It's happening all the time, every day, these things. And so like I've said, are we manifesting? Are we remembering? Are we a little psychic? Are we ahead of time? What's, who knows? I don't understand the goings on, but I do understand that when I'm feeling bad, when my body's feeling bad and I'm wanting to cry, and I do cry, which I didn't for years. I didn't let myself cry for years and years. So that was an accomplishment, to let myself cry. But I notice if I really tune in when I'm feeling that way, it's usually because I'm telling myself some kind of lie. Like, oh my God, this is too much, I can't handle it. That's a lie, right? And oh my gosh, if I'm not getting any sleep now, how am I going to get any sleep next month when, there's 100 more people on the team or whatever? You can tell yourself all this stuff, and you can make yourself really, really miserable. But if you can, in that moment when you're feeling miserable, remember, oh yeah, when I'm feeling like this, it's usually because I'm telling myself a lie. What lie am I telling myself right now? And then you can figure that out. So I don't know if any of that made sense, but that's what I'm thinking about it. We are fractals, you guys. It's really weird. Like, I don't understand it at all, but we really are. Because how else could you, I mean, literally, they can treat your whole body just with the points on your ear. You know, life is just miraculous. And we didn't make it. I don't know about this Big Bang Theory. I've never really read much or watched videos on that, because it just made, just the thought of it, maybe I don't understand the theory, but just the whole thought of like some planets colliding and we wound up or something is just stupid to me. I mean, how, we're too freaking miraculous, like just our bodies are. So I don't know.
That show, it doesn't have anything to do with the Big Bang Theory. It's just called that. It's basically just a show of a bunch of kids that are kind of like, you know, super smart scientists and the silly things that happen to them. It's just a funny show. You should watch it sometime. It's just silly. But anyway, go ahead, Chris. I saw you trying to jump out.
Was that me? Yeah, I guess it was. No, that was both of that was good, Jason and Catherine. You were saying about connecting and influencing people and doing things in our life and making our lives have meaning. I think that's really important. And then also the kind of quote, the cliche that I've heard, you know, you can't do for another person what you can't do for yourself. You can't do for another person what you can't do for yourself. You know, and so you have to have a certain amount of balance and peace within. When you're scattered, you can't go out and put that scattered energy out and then expect to get the right results. And what you were talking about, Jason, about feeling the need to detach sometimes, and do I need to remove myself and detach? Well, I've had nearly about 29 years of meditation. And when I first started out, I was just absolutely gung-ho. I would meditate from 3 to 7 to 9 hours a day for nearly 12 years. Long time. But so, and then I sort of totally went away with it. But what I realized, and what I do now, is something like TM, 20 minutes, a couple times a day. And I think meditation, small amounts of time, are very important, and I've noticed they're crucial to me. And that's where you can disconnect with everything, come back into the flow, feel at peace with yourself. And then it says here, does not strive and attains completion. Because one thing I notice, sometimes I'll have a whole lot going on, and then something in my head will say, okay, calm down and sit here a minute. I'll be like, how is that going to work itself out? Well, it does, because they're opposites. So.
Yeah, I get that, Chris. I think it's like it's almost like you step out of the chaos for a moment. And when you step out of that chaos for a moment, even if it is literally for a moment, like when you're sitting at a stoplight and you just let everything fall away and you just kind of find the peace in the moment, is then you realize that all that chaos isn't as big of a deal as what you were making it out to be. And I think that's kind of the huge thing. Just like when Catherine was talking about when she would get upset, emotional, crying, and that sort of thing, and then she'd realize, okay, I'm telling myself a lie. That's why I'm causing myself all of this distress. Is that I think it's any time we cause ourselves distress, it's because we're telling ourselves some kind of a lie. And just like when I was having these issues with making these dang decisions, it all come down to, I didn't want to do something because of one thing or another, or I was afraid to do something because of one thing or another. And these one thing or anothers are always this mumbo jumbo I was telling myself was going to happen or not happen based on whatever that decision that I was going to make. And, I think that it was like just this weekend, the kids were all here and I was having a great time. And then my daughter left on Sunday and I was okay. Well, first of all, I kind of spell a little bit more of the story is my girlfriend just moved to Florida. We've been friends forever and she's moved to Florida. And I was like, oh, okay, great. I'm so happy for you. La, 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 a couple little tears when we said goodbye. And then my daughter left and she went back to Ohio on Sunday. And then on Wednesday morning, my son left. And it was just me and my husband sitting here. And after everybody being here and everything else, and all of a sudden I'm just like tears are flying out of my face. I'm just like bawling my eyes out. And it's all because of this crap I was telling myself, oh, you're never going to see him again. It's going to be forever. And your babies are going to grow up and they're going to be big. And then you're going to miss their whole lives. And or my son's going to go driving down the road and get a car accident. And I'll never see him again. All the stuff that we tell ourselves. That's getting myself all upset about. And I'm like, oh, yeah, okay. So I let myself kind of cry through the emotional mumbo jumbo there. And then afterwards, I just started thinking about, the happy stuff, I'm going to get to go visit my friend in Florida. Yay. I'm going to be able to see my son here. And, we're going to go visit him in January or, my daughter, I'll see her at Christmas. It's not that far away, and hey, yay, I have the house back to myself again, and it's funny how we do that to ourselves. So it's just like Catherine was saying, it's all in where you're controlling where your mind goes. And when you get yourself all worked up and upset, whatever that stress is that you're causing yourself, it's because you're doing it to yourself. You're expecting more out of yourself than you need to. You're expecting results that you don't want. All of those kinds of things. And taking that just a moment to meditate. And I don't know, a lot of people say meditate and they're like, okay, you got to sit there, like Chris was saying, for 3 to 9 hours a day. And you don't. When you're in a meditative state, time kind of it doesn't even really exist. It's like you can take a minute and sit there in peace and quiet. And if you just calm your mind for that minute, it can be the same as sitting there for an hour or hours. And you can get that same result from it. It's pretty amazing, actually. Donna, you want to jump out? I see you're unmuted. Come on out.
Yeah, real quick there. I'd like to just say one final thought on what I heard there about what everybody said there. Chris brought out a very profound statement there about, you can be aware, you're being in the consciousness, you're being in the now, and everything is flowing in and out, is flowing within balance. Hold on just a second, okay. It's flowing in with the balance. So going back to what the verse says here, wisdom connects you to your heart and your awakened moments. So you have to trust the process of your heart. You just got to know. It's not that you're so much as disconnected. You are really connected. You just don't realize how much. We really, I think there's a lot of times we don't realize how we are connected. Remember, I'm gonna end with this. You remember the little rhyme or the little verse? I don't want to mess it up, but I'm gonna give it a shot. The hip bone is connected to. Somebody might need to help me with this, but it just comes to my thought process. I heard this growing up. The neck bone, the finger. Maybe someone can help me with that, but if you can do it, say it.
Shoulder bone.
The hip bone.
Bone's connected to the rib bone.
There you go. I'll end with that. I'll end with that one. Good one. Think about that one.
I love that, Donna. Thank you. I'm so glad to have you jump back on with us today. We've missed having you. Oh my gosh, it's 11 o'clock. Holy moly. We're at the top of the hour already. Okay, so everybody take a second, wrap up for today, last final thoughts, and then we'll close up.
Well, I like what Donna was saying there about being connected. Definitely everything's connected. And what you said about, making decisions in the moment, wonderful stuff. And I appreciate you too, Chris, for bringing that out about the meditation. It's, I think that's important. And it occurs to me that also part of, meditation isn't just getting away, it isn't just disconnecting, but it's also allows us to teach ourselves to focus, even with all the stuff going on around us, to hold our focus on that meditation rather than these other thoughts and things happening around us. I think it's an exercise in will. It's an exercise in focusing the mind. And so that's why I think, just even if we do it in a short period of time, I think it can help. At least that's what I've been told. I'm working on being in a routine with that myself. But I think it can definitely help exercise our focus and also balance us out a little bit. And I'd like to hear some more thoughts about that, maybe off camera. But gosh, it's great to be here. I hope everyone's going to have a great weekend, and thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. And I also wanted to say thanks for what you said too about Catherine, about the finding, it's amazing when you find a purpose, you find you start having, you realize your connection with the rest of the world and how you can have an impact. And then we have that decision to make in the moment, do we take on that task, do we fulfill that? We all have the ability to have an impact on the world. We can go with the flow and have an impact that way, or we can step into our power at times and also have a huge impact as well. I appreciate your thoughts, Catherine, and you too, Samantha, and great to see you on, Donna and Karen. Appreciate you. So you'll have a wonderful, wonderful weekend.
Thanks, Jason. That was really good. We missed our cohort Sandy today, so hopefully we'll see her next week. Maybe she'll see the replay. I got a lot of peace out of today's mastermind. It was really nice. I appreciate you guys. Maybe we can talk about the mastermind here just for a second once we're off camera too. But thanks everybody, and thanks everyone who's watching. Maybe some of my friends are hopefully watching who I invited this morning. Please come join us. Let's talk about that for a minute off camera. Thanks.
The lecture after the lecture. And we always get sometimes we'll talk for another hour just off camera, and we always say, oh man, we should have been recording, because some of the best stuff comes out. But it's been a wonderful conversation. It's a great verse. Even when you find your purpose, so to speak, or it gets thrust upon you, however it happens, we always, no matter what's going on in the world, we just always have to be able to step back into that peace. And when you first start meditating, it's like anything else that you do for the first time. It's just, you're just not good at it. You just kind of have to practice and practice. But once you get it down, it's sort of like, you guys won't be familiar, but the women might be who have had children, something called Lamaze training. It's where you learn how to breathe to get you through the labor portion, of having a baby. And once you learn those techniques, because they teach you how to relax every muscle in your body and how to completely focus on your breath instead of the pain in your crotch, right? So, though once you learn techniques like that, whether it's through Lamaze, whether it's through meditation or whatever it is, you will get to the point where it's just like the fractal. You could be in the worst chaos, and yet you can bring yourself into that peace. And even 30 seconds of it, even 1 minute of it, can it completely like erase all the stress and everything. It's like completely wiping it out clean. And so no matter what we're doing, I think as long as we maintain that little bit of control there with our minds, and don't let our minds drive us yourself crazy, because they will. Our minds will drive us crazy if we let them. And even if you do find yourself with a ton of responsibilities on your shoulders or whatever, we still have to remember that, take that step back and look at it from a wider standpoint, because sometimes we act, and I'll say that I'm talking about myself, I don't put this on anybody else, but sometimes I act like it's the end of the freaking world. Whatever's going on, it's like the end of the world. It's just the end of the world. And then all of a sudden I'm like, what the hell's wrong with you? It's not the end of the world. It's just like this little thing. So when you can take that step back and you go, well, all right, like you were saying, Samantha, either way is right. And it's not going to, the world's not going to be knocked off axis just because we make this one decision or don't make this one decision. So we are so important in some ways, and I'm learning that. I'm learning how much reach and how much influence we can have with people, and how much taking some actions can change lives. So we are very important, each decision, of course, and whether you're following your mission in life or whatever, of course. But at the same time, we're almost like, really, what would have happened if I wasn't born? Somebody else would have done that thing. You know what I mean? So it's always finding that balance of peace. But if you will practice meditation consistently and just learn the techniques and really learn how to do it, and not just sit there and like you're being quiet but your mind's going like 300 miles an hour, and you have to practice it until you can get where your mind is just like a still water, where there's nothing there, and it's just the peace and the love that we are as spirit beings. It's not disconnect. It's disconnecting from the world, but it's reconnecting with ourselves and with God. And it can just erase all of that. And if you can just learn that one technique, no matter what stresses come at you in life, that works. So, do it, learn how to do it for your own well-being and for everybody else's, because we know if we don't take care of our well-being, that energy leaks out onto everybody else. So thank you so much, you guys. I love you.
I'm just going to briefly pop out and say goodbye.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm going to read this little bit from this Swedish guy. In the time of Lao Tzu and many centuries on, man was not removed from the world as if he were a mere observer of it. That makes sense. We're a part of it, even when we observe it. So our observations and conclusions depend on what we are, what we can see, and what we want everything to be. When I listened to Jason, at least early on, and he started talking about, well, I don't know if we're made for this technology. I don't know if we're made for this. And then I heard Samantha saying things about being out of touch with things. And I was realizing, man, I don't see you guys. This is weird what you're saying. I don't see this. This is not how I see you. And I realized I spent the rest of the time looking at how I wasn't connected to this the way that I thought that I was. So we'll just have to come around the next time we read the book. Love you guys.
I wanted to share one final thing, and I know I've mentioned this before on other hangouts. Like maybe not everybody will be in person, and there's all these else around going by like 10,000 miles an hour. Right there in that moment is just kind of like sitting there and not connected to all this chaos that's going on. And anytime I feel like I'm just really overwhelmed, I'll picture myself standing like in a Walmart with all these people running around being all chaotic and crazy and babbling on and yelling and screaming at each other and all these things, and I'm just standing there at peace, not part of it. I'm there, I'm in the world, but not a part of the world, right? Just kind of that, all this chaos going around. Or imagine myself on a street corner at like Times Square or something, and all these people are running, and cars are going this way and that way, and I'm just standing there and looking at the clouds going, oh, it's so beautiful outside, you know. And that's what I'm talking about, that little just moment of meditation, of taking your focus off all of this chaos and focusing on something beautiful, whatever that is, whether that is just complete calm, like waking up rested, or whether that is the sunshine, or whether it's a bird flying through the sky, you know, whatever it is, it's just changing that focus for a moment and feeling that feeling of peace and calm and love, and knowing that everything is perfect just the way that it is. And I think that's one of the things it talks about in this chapter, is just trust. Everything is already perfect just how it is, and we don't have to be a part of all that chaos. We can step outside of it for just a moment and reconnect with all the awesomeness that is, and realize that it's all perfect just how it is, and just kind of go, whatever decision is next is fine, as you can make that decision, but make it from that peace and calm and knowing that everything is already perfect. Anyways, that's it for today, guys.
I have one more thing I have to say, because I forgot to tell you, Samantha. I wanted to tell you thank you for helping me with a new amazing visualization today, because you mentioned that you were unpacking your books, right? Well, I have been, living in tiny home and displaced for some time now. And I have some things in storage, like in Oklahoma. I have some things in storage here. I have many things that are in boxes and bags. And so one of the things that I do is, especially right before I go to sleep, and then when I wake up in the morning, if at all possible, I try to just, be in that visualization of all those things that I want or whatever, like actually having them. So I'm going to start seeing myself unpacking my things that I haven't seen for years and years in my new place, wherever that place will be. That doesn't have to be a specific place, but it'll be some place where I know I'm finally home. This is mine. I can get all my stuff and unpack. So thank you so much.
Awesome. Yeah, that's wonderful. I love that. All right, guys. Have a great, awesome, amazing weekend. And you can always find us 10 a.m. Eastern Saturday mornings at zoom.saturdaymorningmastermind.com. Again, that's Zoom, ZOOM .saturdaymorningmastermind.com. And you can find our website at mindsetmasterycollective.com. So with that, have a great day, awesome, amazing weekend, and we'll see you next week on Saturday Morning Mastermind. Bye for now.